Hello, loves. Hello, hello. Hills here from the Blue Flame. How are we all doing as we've moved through that Scorpio micro new moon? And we come into a very powerful final week of November. Venus is really the main player of this particular week of energetics. And so we're going to really explore the Venus effect during this transmission, during this energy update. That micro moon in Scorpio helped us to connect with those places within us that tend to have smaller voices, quieter voices. It invited us to bring more awareness, more presence to that seemingly microcosmic. As we move into the final week of November and what in the United States is Thanksgiving week, we find a lot of movement through Venusian channels. Let's begin with where it's beginning, shall we? Venus has been traveling through Scorpio, and Mercury has retrograded back into Scorpio. On the 24th of November, they make their conjunction at the 22nd degree. As they are making this conjunction, they are also coming into contact with a Grand Water Trine, which began its effectiveness during the Scorpio new moon. This Grand Water Trine includes Jupiter retrograde in Cancer and Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Now, we also have with this Grand Water Trine Neptune at the 29 degree of Pisces active. And we're touching back into those places that the Scorpio new moon gave us access to, those microcosmic energies, because this Grand Water Trine was part of that new moon energy. The sun and moon now having moved off, Venus having come in, and Mercury traveling backwards, still part of that. Remember, Mercury was exactly conjunct the new moon. So on the 24th, we find Mercury retrograde at 22 degrees. We find Venus moving forward at 22 degrees of Scorpio. We find Jupiter at 24, retrograde in Cancer, Saturn at 25, retrograde in Pisces. As the week continues, Mercury continuing its backwards dance until it reaches on the 27th, the 20th degree of Scorpio, which you may remember was the exact degree of the Mars-Mercury conjunction during the Libra new moon, which began our 2813 new moon, full moon cycle. This is also the degree where on the 29th of November, Mercury will turn back around and start moving forward towards Sagittarius once again. Before we get there, however, we move into the 25th of November. This is the day when the Grand Water Trine between Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn is at its most exact. This is also the same point in time when Jupiter begins its exact square to Eris, retrograde in Aries. As we have no doubt started to feel, Chiron is also involved at the 23rd degree of Aries, still retrograde. So we're playing with these energies of beneficiousness, of largesse with Jupiter. We're coming into greater contact with that which is the gifts within us. Jupiter retrograde, that which exists within our bloodline. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. We're feeling all of the gifts that have been given to us through our lineage, through our tribe, through our sense of belonging. Now, it is quite interesting that this is all occurring during the US's week of Thanksgiving, a week, a holiday that has a lot of baggage around it, right? Thanksgiving will be on the 27th here in the United States on Thursday. This is also the same day that we start to feel Saturn stationing direct once again. So part of this energy that we're getting to experience, and you don't have to be in the US to touch into it, it's simply part of the tableau, if you will, part of the place setting, is connecting to all of those spaces and places where the baggage, the weight of what we carry from our ancestral line, from our traditions, from our his story, from the patriarchy. All of these wounds and all of these bonds and bands and handcuffs and weights, all of the stories that we've told ourselves over and over again about what the systems and structures our world is experiencing, mean, and have. All of the wounds, feel that Chiron energy, feel that Eris energy in Aries that is in conjunct Venus, that is square Jupiter during this entire week, this entire final week, and into the first week of December. The sun is now in Sagittarius. We are seeking higher expressions, outwardly facing. And part of what we get to experience, if we allow those small voices within us to have voice, is all of the places where even the most toxic, the most corrupt structures of our world have a gift for us. Now, one of the places that we play often is that knowing that we do not need to experience pain or struggle or strife for our growth, for our elevation, for our evolution. We are moving out of that cycle where pain is how we learn. We're remembering that it is not a necessary part of it. Now, this does not mean that there aren't gifts still within those places, like the grit in the oyster shell, that speck of sand that creates the pearl. Part of how we alchemize all of these old stories is through the experience of the things that we can be grateful for within them, the things that we've learned, the things that we no longer need to do anymore because we see how it turned out. I'm reading this book, I should say I'm rereading this book called The Fifth Sacred Thing, and it is kind of a dystopian, utopian take on a possible or a potential future. And one of the beauties of the book is that the original chasm, the original effect that leads to the action that's occurring when the book is taking place, the original moment is where we find ourselves right now. And in this book, there is a group of people who have managed to keep themselves safe from the dystopia, from the power over structures that have taken over. And most of the book takes place in California. So in California, really the entire US. And as they're preparing now, 20 years later, to be reinvaded, they're looking at all of the ways in which resistance movements have worked and not worked in the past, and understanding that if you fight in the same way, you will receive the same result. It's banging your head against the wall. And part of what we're being offered through the energetic of this Venusian transit, and we'll get to some more of the movements, but really through this Grand Water Trine, is all of the emotional weight that we have been carrying, that we have been drowning in, because we can't see another possible way to move through an incarnation journey. We demonize, we other, as opposed to coming into that place where we remember, I am another yourself. That we are, each and every one of us, in constant connection and in constant communication with everything and everyone else. And when we remember that every cell of my being comes from the same place that every cell of your being comes from, we start to change tacks, change tracks, and understand that there are other ways. As this Grand Water Trine continues to energetically move through, Venus continues the journey, and on the 29th of November, we find Venus at the 29 of Scorpio, making the exact trine to Neptune and an exact opposition to Uranus. Here we can awaken to possibly previously unperceivable notions of what it means to love thy enemy, to love that which is within us and all around us, to accept the whole story and integrate the truth within it as we move Mercury turning direct once again at that 20 degree. And on the 30th, Venus shifting into the 0 degree of Sagittarius. Remember, Sagittarius seeks higher. Sagittarius is exploratory. Sagittarius is a centaur like Chiron, coming into contact with that innate healing ability, that innate teacher within us all. For those of us who have a Sagittarian North Node, we can understand that part of that energy is to become teacher, to take on that guru energy, and to, through embodying guru, feel the guru dev within everyone and everything, to understand that everything is a teacher, that every cell of your being is a teacher, to every communication being a moment for education. And as Venus enters the 0 degree of Sagittarius, it does so in an exact square to Magdalena, which will have reached the 0 degree of Virgo, and we can feel that wholeness, that virgin priestess energy, that whole unto self. And then we can remember that part of the energy of Uranus, which Venus is across from, is that energy of awakening new technologies within us, of coming into an awareness of the unique genius that is innate within each of us. That each of us has something to offer, that each of us and each cell of our being has something to offer. Not simply to one another, but to the all of everything. Now, during all of this very Venusian transitory energies, we also have Mars coming into contact now fully and wholly with the Great Attractor. The Great Attractor, that energy that purifies, that pulls in anything that does not serve, to allow for a downslope and a rising energy in the cosmic weaving tapestry. Mars redefining the role of the warrior to whole I am energy. I am. I am. And we can feel that through that, as Venus and Magdalena square one another on the 30th of November, we are coming into the whole expression of our being unified. The masculine, the feminine, the they-ness, if you will, of our allness. At this same time, we have the Hathors at 15 degrees of Leo, making an exact trine to Mars and the Great Attractor. The Hathors, we can remember, are a interdimensional energy of compassion. They have a very Kuan Yin sort of frequency. They invite us to hold space, to release judgments, which is another way of saying to release othering one another and those parts of ourselves that we tend to demonize and other as well. The 29th also finds us with the third quarter moon in Pisces. This moon will be conjunct Kali in Pisces, so things could get a bit fiery, right? We have Mars with the Great Attractor, we have the Hathors in Leo, we have the moon, that second quarter moon, that birthing moon, that waxing moon, that growing moon, in union with Kali Ma. Kali is the destroyer, the avenger, but Kali is also the mother of all. It is that fierce wind that blows and knocks the dead leaves off the tree so that they may fall and become the compost for the seeds that through winter are kept warm under the bed of those dead leaves, and come spring are able to rise once again, to grow as flowers and blades of grass. And we get to feel how when we stop demonizing, when we stop othering, when we can look at that cold wind blowing and see the gift in it, when we can feel that sun beating down and feel the gift in it, just as we can feel the rain and the gift in it, and the mud and the sludge at the bottom of a pond from which the lotus grows. And we get to understand that so there, so I. And all of the energy of this transit as we move from the Scorpio new moon to the to the Gemini supermoon on December 4th is inviting us to come into a more highly attuned relationship with the truth that so there I go too. That everything that we experience in our journey of incarnation is simply the answer to a question that our soul asked. And is answering. That's really what the Pisces second quarter moon feels like to me, honestly, is coming into a state of transient dreaming. Transient dreaming. Pisces ends our karmic cycle, and we are coming towards the end of the year 2025. We are winding down all of this transformation. We are beginning to eat our way out of the chrysalis, if you will, and prepare for all that is coming when we come to the year 2026 in the Gregorian calendar. A year of opening. A year of opening. It is a 10-year, which is also a 1 year. The tarot for it. We'll get more into this, but I'm just going to drop a couple of little pieces because I heard to do so. The tarot card for next year is both the Magician, as part of the 1 year that it is, and the Wheel of Fortune as part of the 10-year that it is. And we get to feel that opening and closing, those cycles within cycles that it contains. And I'll have an update where we talk a lot more about that. But perhaps this is an invitation as we move through this week of finding gratitude in unlikely locations. We can feel how the Magician works with all of the cycles, how the Goddess works with all of the cycles, how the God works with all of the cycles, holds all of them with wonderment and awe and love, and find those ways within ourselves to do that also. As part of this, the Venus point transmission, which is an etheric, energetic point that bridges the vagus and amygdala and helps us to reroute our trauma and fear, to move it into a new heart-based alchemization, is available. There's a link below. It'll be available through the end of this week, through the end of the month of November, and then it's going back into the container of the portal. So if it calls, definitely come check it out. It's a full transmission and an activation of that etheric point. I hope that you have a beautiful, beautiful week of the Venusian effect, and that as we open wider to the gifts within all of us, we are able to see the gifts that are also all around us. And as such, with so much and many loves, open to the dimensions of the all and beyond, beyond. Thank you, my dears.